Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome to our Crochet Connection. My name is April Diane, and today we will be working from the Big Book of Crochet Stitches by Rita Wise and Jean Leanhauser. We are working on the 3 cheers stitch, which is found on page 88 of the text. Before we begin, we will review the concept of chain multiples, slip knots, and chains. If you're familiar with these concepts, feel free to skip to row 1 of the tutorial or use the time to create your foundation chain row of 26 chains for today's swatch. The concept of chain multiples indicates how many stitches are necessary to create a foundation that will support the sequence of stitches required for the design in the pattern. The first number is the number for the desired length of the design. The second number, if present, sometimes there is no second number, represents the turning chain. To start the foundation row using chain multiples, you use any multiple of the first number and then you add the second number 1 time. For example, if the first number is 4, you could use multiples of 4 such as 4, 8, 12, 16, and etc. Then add the second number once you decide which multiple of 4 you wanted to use. A chain multiple of 4 plus 2 would be 4 plus 2 equals 6, 8 plus 2 equals 10, 16 plus 2 equals 18, and etc. The slip knot is found at the beginning of many projects that you will create. As you can see, I've created a slip knot here. It's how the yarn and the hook connect. The reason that it's called a slip knot is because it can easily slip out, unlike a stationary knot, which you'd have to give a little bit more effort to. So here's your slip knot. And if you separate the free end of yarn from the working end of yarn, the part that's connected to the skein or ball of yarn, if you separate these two, your slip knot will slip out. Like so. And that's why it's called a slip knot. To start your slip knot, you're going to take the free end of yarn and you're going to drape the free end of yarn in the front of your 2 fingers, your pointer finger and your middle finger, palm side facing you. Drape it right in the front there. Just sit it there with a little bit of hang time down below your middle finger. You're gonna pinch this yarn into place, like so. And now you're going to take the working end of yarn, the part that's attached to the skein or the ball of yarn that you're using today, and you're going to bring that yarn back past the knuckle side of your hand, around to the palm side of your hand, and make an X in the front of your palm side, okay, crossing it over the free end of yarn. And then flip your fingers over to the knuckle side, and you now have 2 loops, the front loop and the back loop of yarn. And now you're going to take your hook with the mouth of the hook facing down underneath the first loop, grabbing a hold of the second loop, taking the second loop and pulling it underneath the first loop, like so. And then to secure the yarn and the hook's connection, you're going to turn your fingers to the palm side and you're going to lift up on the hook and pull your fingers out of the hole. When you do that, you want to make sure that your hook is still in place around the yarn that it was attached to. And now you're going to pull up on your hook and grab a hold of the free end and the working end of yarn together, pull them down and the hook up. like so. And there your knot is created. Now, depending on how far your knot is down from your hook, you're going to want to make sure that the knot is snugged up close to the hook. And no matter how far it is away from it, you know that you can always bring it up closer by simply separating the free end and the working end of yarn underneath the knot. So here's the free end of yarn, here's the working end of yarn, here's the knot. You're gonna pull those two apart away from each other completely, and the knot is going to snug up toward the hook. And of course, you know, if the hook wasn't in place, the knot would simply come out. And there you have it, how to create a slip knot. Now let's review chains. We're going to review 2 different ways to complete chains in this review. And the first way is like so. I create a T initially, right, with my yarn and my hook. So you can see the free end is on the left side and the working end is on the right side. That's what I consider a T. Okay, see, it's a lowercase t. A little wiggle there. Okay, and so now I take and I pinch right here to keep this slip knot in place. And I take the working end of yarn and I cross it over the front of the hook. And now it looks like I have 2 loops on, the bottom loop and the top loop here. I'm going to take the bottom loop and pull it over the top loop and over the neck and the mouth of the hook, like so, creating 1 stitch. Okay, then I'm going to pinch it in place once again, and I'm going to yarn over, taking the bottom loop and pulling it over the top loop. 2 chains, you see them? They begin to look like braids. Same thing, pinch right here where the hook and the yarn are connected, yarn over, pull this bottom loop over this top loop and over the mouth of the hook. So here, like so. Okay, 3. Yarn over, bottom loop over top, like so. 4. Pinch, yarn over, bottom loop over top, like so. Okay, so far I've made how many chains? Can you guess? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now I'm going to show you another way. The next way is by placing both pieces of your yarn on the same side, creating a greater than symbol, like in math, you see right here, greater than. Okay, now you're going to take, instead of wrapping your yarn around your hook for this technique, you're going to wrap your hook around your yarn. Okay, so I have the yarn pinched here in between these 2 fingers, and I'm really holding this in place so that the yarn doesn't slip and get longer and give more tension than I'd like to, or less tension than I'd like to, in order to keep the stitches the same size and shape. Okay, so I have this pretty tight here, these 2 fingers. And now I'm going to take the hook and wrap it around the yarn. Okay, it still looks like I have my 2 loops on, and I'm going to pull now the hook down through the bottom loop on the hook. If it's not too tight, it looks like I got it too tight, like so. Okay, so that's what you want to be careful about, getting it too tight. So now we have 6, yarn over and pull down, 7, yarn over and pull down, 8, yarn over and pull down, 9, yarn over and pull down, 10. Now you can see that we have a total of 10 chains. Okay, and there's many different ways to count the chains. Now, as you can see, I actually flipped my yarn, and so now it looks like my yarn, it actually did a little flipping action, which I'm not really happy about, but that sometimes happens. And so that's why you want to be mindful that whichever way you start making your chains, to continue to make those chains the same way so that you have one complete solid braid going down. Because now it looks like I have some front and some back components of the chain evident here. Okay, so, and you also, another thing you want to be mindful about is that you really pull your slip knot kind of tight there so that it doesn't look like it's a chain itself when you're counting. Okay, so right now we have 10. I know because I counted as I was going, but if you didn't know, you could look at well, this from here down, I have the front of the chains. And so you can see you can count each of these little peep braids. You know, there's a front loop and there's a back loop to every chain. And then there's also a back bump to every chain. So there's 3 components. So I can count, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Okay, and so here's some more chains here, but we're actually looking at the back bump of these chains here. So we're looking at the back side of these chains, and see there's the front side. So that sometimes happens. Sometimes your chain is not consistent all the way, and that usually happens when you shift gears like we did to show that I could show you the different types of ways to do the chains, the different ways of holding your yarn and your hook. Ordinarily that wouldn't happen. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and begin the project now. Thanks for listening to the review, and I hope that it helped you. If I can be of more service in regard to reviewing, put a note in the comments. All right, here we go. Okay, now let us begin the stitch 3 cheers. I recommend creating a swatch of the new stitch before you begin a project so that you can become familiar with the stitch. In this tutorial, we will review any other stitches necessary for the pattern as well as we go along, so if you're a beginner, hold tight, we've got you covered. This stitch includes chains, single crochet, double crochet, and changing colors. As you can see, I've done my chain of 26, which is the count that we're using for this particular stitch. And this stitch calls for the use of 3 different colors. And row 1 says to begin with the first color, completing 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each remaining chain. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, here are the chains and this is the hook. This is the way the chain and the hook, the yarn and the hook join. This would be the first chain, this would be the second chain. So this is our insertion point. We can go in from the front or through the back. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about in relation to going through the front or the back, review the tutorial on chains and inserting into the foundation row. Okay, so now we're gonna go right here into the front. Okay, and we're going to create a single crochet. This is the second chain from the hook. We're going in. Here's our insertion point. We're yarning over and we're pulling out of the insertion point or pulling the middle piece up over the yarn over we just did. Okay, again, now we have 2 loops on and we're yarning over and we're pulling through. 1 single crochet completed. All right, and we're going to do this in each of the chains going forward. Okay, so here's the next one, and sometimes the most challenging thing is determining where's the next insertion point. So here it is right here. That's why, especially for foundation rows, it's a really good idea to make your stitches kind of loose. So there we go, we inserted it into the insertion point, we're yarning over, we're pulling it out of the insertion point, and we're yarning over and we're pulling through 2. Okay, and we're doing that all the way down. Here's the next insertion point, yarning over, pulling it out of the insertion point, yarning over and pulling through 2. Inserting it into the insertion point, the next chain, yarning over, pulling it out of the insertion point, 2 loops remaining, yarning over and pulling through 2. Okay, all the way down, in, yarn over, out, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, into here, insertion point, yarn over, out of the insertion point, yarn over and pull through 2. One more time, the next V. Now it's, you know, what I always tell people in terms of going into the chains, how you can tell which chain to go into. Sometimes you have to pull it apart, and that will help you it'll be more clear of where one chain ends and the next begins. And then also these loops up here, see this loop? That's one chain. And here's another one, that's a second chain. All of these have loop, the top loop. Well, this is actually the back loop, the front loop and the back loop, right? But it's on top when you're working, okay? So these loops indicate that this is a new stitch, okay? So maybe if you're having a challenging time reviewing, seeing where the actual chains are, it'd be a good idea for you to take some time and just spin doing a row of single crochet into the foundation chain. Okay, so for this stitch, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna keep going all the way down until you get to the very last chain, which is here. Okay, and you're gonna do a single crochet right into there as well. All right, I've already done that for you. I've gone all the way down to the end. So if you're still working, you can stop the tape and we'll go from here. And you can catch up to us by pressing pause. When you get to the end, there is a preparatory stitch before you move on to row 2. Okay, the preparatory stitch for row 1 is a chaining of 3. Okay, so we're going to yarn over and pull through, and yarn over and pull through. Okay, and then yarn over and pull through. So you're going to do 3 chains at the end of completing row 1's single crochet. And then you're going to turn. It doesn't matter whether you turn at the beginning or the end, either way. I mean, you know, before you do your chains or after, it doesn't matter. It may matter for you in terms of being able to see where you go into next, but in terms of the look of the pattern, it doesn't matter. Just work to be consistent, okay? Now, let's move on to row 2. So, keeping the same color that you started with row 1, you're going to go ahead and skip the beginning and skip the next single crochet. So it doesn't say that in the text, so you may want to make that indication. And the reason that I know that is because the pattern in row 1 stated that this chain 3 counts as the first double crochet. So whenever it counts, the first stitch is skipped, okay? So we're skipping this one and we're skipping this one. And then we're going to do a double crochet in this next single crochet, okay? All right, so we're skipping. Now, how I like to see exactly where the insertion points are for the next row is I actually look at the posts, okay? So you can look at the top of the piece, right? And you can see that this is the beginning stitch because it's really close to this chain 3, right? So this is the beginning stitch, this is the next one, and then this is actually the one that we're gonna go into, okay? This is our insertion point for now. But if you look at it from the side, you can see also that, well, there's a little glare going on here, but you can see that here's one hole, right? Here's another hole. So this is the post. Like there's like a little bump action going on the side of the single crochet. And so there's like some little divots in between each of them. Like right here, there's like a little indication. These are your insertion points for single crochet. Okay, so the very first one is the beginning stitch. Okay, this is the very first one. Then here's the second one. That's the second stitch We're not going to go into there. We're going to actually go into here. So now once you've determined that your insertion point and it's clear for you, we're going to go ahead into it with a double crochet. Okay, so we're skipping one, we're skipping the beginning, and we're skipping the next one. Okay, the pattern only says skip the next single crochet, and I mentioned to you why it's saying that. Okay, now here's our actual insertion point right here. Okay, and this actual insertion point, we're going to go into it with a double crochet. So here's your little double crochet review really quick. So you yarn over first for a double crochet, right? And then you go into the insertion point right here. Okay? And then you yarn over again and you take it out of the insertion point, keeping the yarn over on. Pull it right on through out of the insertion point. And now you'll have 3 loops on. Okay? And then you yarn over again and you pull off 2 of the loops underneath the yarn over, so the middle 2. And then you yarn over again and you pull off the bottom 2. Okay? And that's your double crochet in the indicated stitch. Okay? Now it says to double crochet in the skipped single crochet. So remember we skipped this one back here, right? We skipped this indication right here. Okay? We're gonna go back in there with a double crochet. So we're yarning over, and remember we go through like so, from the front into the back of it, right there, like so. And then we yarn over and we pull out like so. And then we have 3 loops on again. We yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Okay? And that's that. Doesn't look like much ever in the beginning, but you can see it's kind of doing a little twisting action, right? Okay. The next direction says to repeat from the star across to the last stitch, and then double crochet in the last stitch. So the first direction in the pattern says, in the stitch says to skip the next single crochet. So that's the first direction of the repeat. So we're skipping the next single crochet. So we're skipping this one, this divot here, right? Or that V. We're skipping this V and we're going into this V with a double crochet. All right, so we're yarning over. I know my glare is a little glary today, extra glary. All right, so we're skipping this one and we're going into here, okay, right here. And then we're yarning over, pulling it out of the insertion point, yarning over, pull through 2, and yarning over, pull through 2. And the second direction in the repeat says to double back, right? So go back and do a actual double crochet right into the skipped single crochet. Okay, so you're going in here like so with your hook and pulling it up from behind. Okay, yarning over, pulling it through, 3 loops on, yarning over, pulling through 2, and yarning over, pulling through 2. Okay, and that's it all the way down. You're going to continue to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead. I didn't do a prep piece for this one, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to do it right along with you here, so you can go ahead and take some time. If you didn't quite get what I just said, just press rewind. All right, skip a stitch in the next. It's really pretty too once you do this. You know, it really starts to look very nice. See that? I love the texture of the stitch. Okay, so I made it down all the way to the very last two stitches. And what you're gonna actually wanna do is you're gonna wanna, it says to, you're going to, normally we would, right, we would skip this stitch and we would do something in here, right? We would do a double here and then double back. But we're actually not going to do that now. What we're going to do is we're just going to skip this stitch and we're gonna double crochet in the next stitch, okay? So now another thing too is we're actually about to prepare to change colors as well. So you want to double crochet in here, but you want to do a little different technique with this double crochet. And what that simply is not completing the entire stitch, okay? So you're gonna go in here, right? This is the last double crochet, and we're gonna go in, and we've already yarned over, and we're gonna yarn over and we're gonna pull it out of the insertion point. Now you have 3 loops on. And then you're going to yarn over and we're gonna pull through the 2 loops on the hook. Okay, and then you have 2 loops remaining. Okay, front loop and back loop. Okay, and then you're going to add your new color right now. So you see, normally we would yarn over here and pull through those 2 loops, right, to complete the double crochet. We would yarn over and we would pull through, but we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to change our color right here. And to do that, what we're actually going to do is we're going to just use the new color as the next yarn over. So normally we would yarn over with our red, well, the one that we're working with, but instead we're going to hold the tail of the new color back behind the piece, and we're going to yarn over and pull through. Okay, and then we're going to secure it by pulling the old color a little snug, and that's our color change. Okay, there's a couple different videos on color changes available, so you can take a look at those if that wasn't clear enough for you. All right, and now that we've changed to our new color, we're actually going to turn 1, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn. Okay, you still have the old color on there, and so you can go ahead and cut that off, like right here. I'll give it like a few inches, about 4 inches down. That's the old color. We're cutting it off, and we will begin row 3 with the new color. Okay, so row 3 says to single crochet in each double crochet across. Okay, so as you know, we've double crocheted all the way, including this one here. The very first one is a double crochet, and then all of these crisscrosses are double crochet. So you gotta find the top of the crisscrosses. You're just gonna do the V's, you know? So you notice the V's on the top, you're going to find the insertion point, which is directly underneath the V, and you're single crochet. Okay, in the top of the V. So you're just going to find the V and you're going to single crochet in the top of the V. So here's the very first one. Okay, so we're gonna go right into here, the very first one. You see all the V's on the top. All of them are going to get a single crochet. All right, so there's one. Here's another. And we're gonna single crochet all along the top. Okay, so this whole row is a row of single crochets, and you're gonna go all the way down. And again, you see you have your crisscross stitches, your crisscross double crochets. Okay, so here I turned my light off so you can see better. So all you're gonna do is look for the V's at the top of this of the previous row. And that's how you know that you're going to insert a single crochet into that space. Okay, so here's the next V, and you're gonna go right into here, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, the whole way down into all of them. And this is row 3. Okay. You're going to alternate rows 2 and 3 for the remainder of the swatch. And so you'll do, in each color, you'll do a row 2 and a row 3. Okay, row 2 and row 3. So you're going to start out with the row 3 for the color. So every time you get to a row 3, you know that you're going to be switching to your new color to carry out the steps of row 3. Okay, all the way down. All right, and then you're going to turn your work. Going to start row 2 again. Okay, so the pattern just repeats that whole way down. So row 2 is going to be the same thing. So at the end of row 3, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. You're going to skip the beginning stitch and the next stitch and do your double crochet in the next. All right, and then you're going to double back and go and do it again in the skipped stitch. Same thing for row 2. So, and that's it. After you finish row 3, you chain 3 once again, and you begin row 2 again in the same color. Okay? And the main thing to remember is that you're going to do a row of 3 and a row of 2 in the same color, in each of the colors. So if you have any questions about any of the steps, just press rewind. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. If there is any way I can improve on the quality of the tutorials I create, feel free to connect with me and leave a comment. Additionally, subscribe to our channel to receive notifications when new videos are posted. Click the little bell in the lower right-hand corner to turn on the notification alert. Like our videos if they were helpful to you and if you created the stitch. And update us on how you use the stitch. And lastly, have fun making your projects. Happy crafting!